So today's agenda, we're going to talk about what exactly is cyber liability insurance, how do you find the best policy, how do you negotiate sublimits, how do you address coverage gaps, and how can you curb risk going forward. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Don and let Don get started.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to start us off with just the simple task of explaining what exactly cyber liability insurance is. Since you're attending this event, I'm assuming that you have some sort of interest in it and have a general understanding of what we're dealing with here. It is insurance like probably most of us are used to dealing with, but it is a new type of insurance that is developed because of our new realities of an interconnected world. Now, the way I like to put it, and I've seen as I've read many articles on these issues, is there are only two types of people in this world, those who have been cyber breached or those who have been cyber breached and just don't know it. So it's an inevitable thing that we have to deal with potential breaches of either our personal lives or our work lives. And as I have in there, it's like death and taxes. Look, they're inevitable. So what we need to do is prepare ourselves to avoid them at all possible tasks. Cyber liability insurance. It's obviously designed to mitigate losses from lots of different cyber incidents. I list here data breaches, network damage, cyber extortion, but of course there are many other types of liabilities that can be suffered because of our interconnected world these days. And it's also why you will find that once you start delving into the world of cyber insurance and you start looking at policies, you will not see a uniform world of written policies. This is a new world that's going to be very unique from company to company. So what you need to understand are the basics, which is cyber liability. Since you have the potential, a very, very, very high potential of being breached of your personal data, if you're in any way connected to the internet, it is going to offer you a level of financial security. Now, the level of financial security is going to depend on the type of policy you get and what types of coverages and sublimits that you negotiate. The second thing is that you really are going to benefit from is guidance on cybersecurity steps. Most insurance companies that offer a cyber liability policy are going to require some type of compliance with their cybersecurity measures. In this fashion, they can evaluate your company, your potential flaws, and give you steps on how to protect yourself so that you never get breached or need to actually use the policy. But again, the main reason for the cyber insurance policy is for the security that should something bad happen, you will be able to recover from it. Next slide, please. There are two types of cyber liability insurance, first party and third party. First party is exactly as the name implies. It covers first party, which is you and your company, whoever the policy is written for. It's going to cover those direct costs, such as business interruption should you get a denial of service attack where somebody, say you're an internet-based type company and you get lots of information, a denial of service attack, and you're shut down for hours or days. There are coverages which will help you get through that period. Destruction of data and property should hackers get into your system and steal and or destroy not only data, but also they have the ability to destroy infrastructure and hardware. There are policies which will cover that. And reputational harm. This is a harm, obviously, you, first party, are suffering. And, again, there are policies that will cover that. Third party, again, just as the name implies, it covers losses to third parties outside of your company. This is going to be your customers, your clients, the people you serve. This is mostly having to cover personally identifiable information. And the reason I point out that specific word, personally identifiable information, is there are actually laws in 46 of the 50 states which require that if you are breached and personally identifiable information is lost, you actually have to report that and respond pursuant to those laws. Now, the insurance policies for third party will also cover things such as not only personally identifiable information, but should you have specific items, whether it be data that is proprietary to you and other items. Of course, that's going to be in your sublimits. That's going to be specifics that you're going to have to address on each policy you review. Next slide, please. First-party coverage for specifics. Some of the subcategories are going to be cyber extortion. That's when somebody actually gets into your network, steals information that you do not want shared with third parties, or that is valuable to you, and obviously holds you for ransom for it. And this may sound strange, but I actually have run into this situation once with an ex-employer. Had a call from an owner at 2 o'clock in the morning. He had been checking out some sites that he should not have been, and luckily for a small amount of money, he was going to be able to get the systems back up and running. The entire company's computer systems had been frozen. I was able to get around it, even though I'm not any sort of cyber or computer guru, but it just goes to show this was a small company, that it can happen to small companies. This was a $4 million a year company with less than 50 employees. It can happen to small and big, and to be honest, it's going to have a bigger impact on the smaller company. Second is privacy breach response. Once you get breached and the private information that you retain is out for the world to see, or for third parties to see that should not see it, you're going to have to take certain steps, and this is where the insurance comes in handy as far as your broker explaining what steps you need to do to have a plan in place to respond before it actually happens. But can cover things such as customer notification expenses, finding those customers and notifying them in a timely manner. Credit monitoring expense. If you'll remember the Target breach, most customers that were breached were offered free credit monitoring services. Computer and legal forensic expense. You want to find out how the hackers got into your system and how to prevent them from doing so in the future. And also you'll want maybe a legal forensic expert should you get sued because of a hack. And credit and identity repair expense. Again, that has to do with like the Target situation where customers' credit card information was stolen, and should their credit be in any way impaired, they have the services that they can pay for and give to their customers to repair such credit history. And last, as I discussed earlier, was business interruption. For a small business, this is very important because being down for hours or even a day, especially if you're an internet-based company to where customers can't place orders or get in touch with your company, this can be devastating. Just a few days of no income can shut you down. So this type of insurance is extremely important. Next slide, please. Third-party coverage. This is, of course, the stuff that is affecting you, is affecting third parties, not part of your company. It has to do, like with privacy liability. Again, I'm going back to the personally identifiable information. Now, this, of course, is employees and customers. Those are the third parties that you'll have to be covering for liability. Should their personal information get out because you store it, you retain it, then you are going to have some sort of coverage should you be sued or have any sort of regulatory or governmental liability for that hack. Security liability, that again, that's to prevent you, again, for liability due to an actual hack, or should a hacker get into your system and plant a virus, which then, say, spreads on to your customers, your clients, things of that nature. The repercussions could be quite devastating, so that will protect you and give you some level of security for such a spread of a virus or other hack. Website media liability. In the past, there's been, media liability, which is standard, covers libel, slander, and copyright. But again, this is specific to website media liability. And should you do a lot of advertising or publishing on the Internet, this is something you want to look at closely. And last is regulatory defense and penalty. Again, like I said, 46 of the 50 states already have laws on the books requiring that should you be hacked and personally identifiable information is lost, you must respond to the government, and there could be fines and penalties that go along with that. Next slide, please. So finally, we're going to wrap it up. Do you need cyber liability insurance? Well, I'm going back to the personally identifiable information. If you in any way obtain or retain such information, yes, you need cyber liability insurance. And I could even make it more broad that if you have any connection to the internet or your business has any connection to the internet, you need to be looking at this issue and talking to brokers. I don't care whether you're healthcare, law firms, accountants, hotels, that whole long laundry list of things right there. To be honest, other than snow cone stands and drug dealers, I can't think of other businesses that would not need cyber liability insurance. So I would encourage everyone attending today to look into this issue. And I will pass it along to Paul now.